Hello, everyone, and good afternoon. Welcome to our daily drop, but not daily update for today, which is Friday, which is the 7th, but we're talking about yesterday, the 5th of April, after the eviction. I'm your host, Taran Armstrong, and we are here today to update you on who won the HOH and what their plans might be for the week. With me to do so today is Pooya. How you doing, Pooya?
Doing good, Taran. We got an hour 15 today. Some of it was good. Most of it was not. But we're going to make a meal out of it similar to a HelloFresh packet. So we're going to make the most out of this recipe.
We truly are. Well, as we know, at the end of the episode, Dan was evicted and they started an endurance competition for the HOH. So we'll just kind of take you through the events of the drop as they occurred in the first couple of minutes, because right away, Ty and Claudia were walking and Ty did his ball game thing, and that was a bit of an indication that he seems to be happy with this outcome, so keep that in mind. Renee says to Ty and Claudia, well, you guys lasted 5 hours, so I think I lasted like 3.5. I just wanted to outlast Santina, and I did. And it's like, all right, we're doing like a logic puzzle here. Like, let's go. Ty is talking to Hope after that, and he says, it's time to get people back for putting me up on the block. And it's like, okay, so for sure at this point, Ty or Claudia seem to have won this competition.
Yeah, it didn't really look like it was going to be anybody else. There was a lot of camera on Ty primarily from the start too, which led me to believe it could be him. But honestly, the minute he does ball game, you know that's his move for checkmate. It's over, right? So it's like, you cannot be this cocky if anybody else but you is the HOH. But if anyone was to be like that, it would have been Ty.
Well,
so the
to be
mystery
fair,
was
he was this cocky when Kuzi won HOH
exactly.
as well, so it still could theoretically be Claudia.
Yeah, if anyone's gonna play it cocky when they're not HOH, it's this man. So
we found out that Shania fell in fourth place, right before the final three, which were Ty, Claudia, and Hope. And the three of them lasted much longer than anybody else after Shania dropped out. We're going to find out that Kuzi and Danica dropped pretty quickly in succession. Daniel was the first one out. Jonathan hurt himself a little bit. Not sure quite the extent of the injury right now, but he is definitely hurt. His arm doesn't look great. He's trying to hold on. He said, I'm a big boy. It was tough to hold myself up there. And Ty apparently is only like 180. And so, he's like, he was able to hold on pretty easily. Hopes. So what we find out is that ultimately Claudia dropped in third place, and it came down to Ty or Hope, and Ty just managed to outlast Hope with, I think, some kind of like tiebreaker sort of thing.
One-handed maneuvers, I think, for the last bit. I think they were
something
told to.
like that. Yeah. So Hope says his back just went out, and he tried his best, but Ty has won the HOH.
Yeah, 5.5 hours, fair play, not easy to do. Definitely, you got to have a lot of determinants. No, I'm not going to Jacob Jones this. Determination is what I was looking for. Yes, sorry. But yeah, the determination to win has to be there for you to get through 5.5 hours. So, good job on you. That being said, I feel like this was, for a lot of people, maybe the last thing they wanted to see as to who would win HOH, but here we are.
Here we are indeed. So that is the current state of things. We are going to quickly see a conversation between Kuzi and Ty, where Kuzi is saying Cece, and Ty says, well, that makes the most sense, I guess. Get us all on the same page over a meal. All right, I'm going to tell Hope. I told him I might bring him, but I'll tell him I'm going to bring Cece instead. They're talking about Wendy's. Kuzi is trying to convince Ty, who told Hope I might take you to Wendy's, that he should not take Hope to Wendy's, that he should instead take Claudia. Uh,
Mhm.
and her reasoning, or the reasoning that he's saying is that, like, yeah, it'll be good to get her on the same page over a meal at Wendy's. He feels like he can't talk real strategy with Hope. Plus, he says, I gave him a whole comp already. I gave him $5,000.
Hey, once again, taking credit for something that I don't think he really had much of a say in. But if Ty's gonna do one thing, it's overplay his hand and let that head get bigger and bigger. We're only an hour into the reign, and already I can feel the ego inflating.
So Kuzi. So Ty's gonna go right to Hope, and he says, "Listen, I'm gonna take Cece to eat." And Hope is devastated. Hope is like,
So sad.
"You're gonna take Cece? You're gonna be with her all week, though." I was like, "Listen, I'm telling you now. Next week, I'll push for everyone to take you to Wendy's next week. All right, like that's what I'm gonna do." Because Ty, of course, is already back in control of the entire house and can convince anybody to do anything, including take Hope to Wendy's next week. And Hope is just, but I wanted to go on this one, bro. And Ty says, listen, I'm telling you, I need you to trust me. They sent Zach home. I need to see where her head is at with Shania and Renee. I need to make sure she's not turning on me too. I need to make sure she's on board with what we're doing. I just want a baconator though, bro.
Yeah, Hope is jonesing for that meal. Definitely have not seen, he has not been this sad to be asked to put on the block. Let's just note that, because we've seen him be a lot more keen to take the block than he has been to not take Wendy's.
Yeah. So I thought it was a little interesting here. It seems as though talking to Kuzi and to Hope here, Ty is just like straight up implying, which seems to be backed up by the fact that he has not told Claudia, who won the veto and used it on him, that like genuinely, I don't know that I can fully trust Claudia. She's still in too much with Shania and Renee, who I don't trust at all. And Wendy's, this was the pitch that Kuzi made to Ty: take her to Wendy's, make sure she's on the same page with us. So somehow Kuzi seems to be more in than Claudia.
Yeah, Kuzi somehow has a little bit more of a pull here. I think also, Ty knowing that Dan used the veto and knowing that Dan and Kuzi are close. Like, I think there's a couple people that Ty may not necessarily know what the connections are, but thinks there's a number that wants to rock with me, and they're here. I also loved later Kuzi does add, when I think retelling it to it was Anika and Daniel that like, yeah, Hope will talk himself onto the block if he goes to Wendy's, and we can't have that, which I thought was very funny and very, very accurate.
Yeah. So we cut over to Kuzi and Anika, and this is really going to be pretty much the rest of the drop, just with people coming in and out. Kuzi says, is talking about Santina probably going up. So, Anika says, I'm not mad at it. I mean, and Kuzi says, me neither. Daniel comes in. They say, yeah, we're actually kind of happy about this. Kuzi says, if you think about it, like, if we get Santina out this week, it just makes it easier for us to take him out next week, because he can't compete. So this is not bad at all. And Daniel says, okay, but like, there's no reason he'll like use us as pawns or anything like that, right? Like, Anika says, I don't think so. And Daniel says that, well, Hope told me that Ty said he wanted to work with him. And because this is when Kuzi says, yeah, well, Ty wanted to take Hope to Wendy's, and I convinced him not to because I'm worried that Hope will talk himself onto the block at Wendy's.
Yeah, this is where we can potentially bring in the Bel Air discussion, because there is a safety up for grabs this week that I genuinely do think is going to cause a wrinkle in some of these potential nom talks.
Yes. So, I think Hope will come in and kind of give some info, or at least some guesses on where things might go as well. But Daniel or Kuzi says that, Anika says, what if Santina says stuff about us now that she's at risk? And Kuzi says that she's not credible. And Daniel's like, she doesn't even have anything on us anyway. They agree. They don't think Ty will come after them. And Kuzi says, listen, I don't know if you guys see it, but the way Ty is moving these days is really pissing me off.
Mm-hmm.
And they both agree. Nika says, we also have to worry about Santina trying to get close to Hope. They start talking about how like Santina's been like really, getting close to Hope in weird ways. And they're like a little bit worried about that. But Hope comes in, Daniel leaves, and Hope says, we're safe this week, all of us. And Kuzi says, what is he trying to do? Hope says, you already know. Santina and Renee? Yeah, I think so. Can we trust him? What can we do? And he's like, well, even if he comes after us, we do have the numbers. So, we should be good. So yes, Hope seems to think Santina and Renee, that's what we would have assumed given where things ended last week.
Mm-hmm.
It's where Claudia's head was at. It makes sense that Ty's head would be there, especially considering that, they're all working together. This is what they've kind of all been pushing on to Ty for the last week since using the veto on him. Um, Clearly the using of the veto has worked very well, at least so far from what we can tell. And this is, I think, because we don't have feeds, I've seen a lot of confusion about it where it's like, oh, Daniel, you saved Ty. What an idiot you are. Now he's won HOH. Look at what you've wrought. But Santino was always targeting Dan. Dan was always the target. Ty was always going to stay.
Regardless.
And it also wasn't just Daniel's idea. They all agreed that they wanted to do. Kuzi and Anika both agreed to this. If anything, they might have come up with it. And it has worked very well so far. So it has come in clutch for this particular moment. Seemingly, we still don't know for sure what Ty is going to do. But Ty was never leaving anyway, and he was probably always going to win this HOH. So the issue then comes into play where there has been some push to save Santina.
Yes.
If Santina is saved, that's Ty's primary target off the board. And his secondary target could still be Renee. That would not be impossible by any means. We could see Renee leave if Santina is safe. I think that's where a lot of people would push. I think Kuzi, obviously, like the entire crown would all push Renee. The issue is then who goes up on the block if Santina is
Safe.
off the board.
Mm-hmm.
And the answer to that is difficult to ascertain, right? He's probably not going to touch the Shady Bunch. He probably doesn't want to touch Jonathan or Hope unless he's targeting them, which only kind of leaves Shania, right?
Yeah. And how's Claudia going to feel about that?
Exactly. Like, is Claudia going to be down for that? Even like Shania as a pawn to take out Renee could make some sense. And I think, given where things stand, I don't think anybody would be too riled up by that. So that's kind of his safe move. But with Santina off the board, we know Ty, he's prone to wanting to make bigger moves. I don't think it's impossible that Ty starts thinking about, okay, maybe even if I did go with Shania and Renee as my initial noms, backdoor possibilities. Hope came very close to beating him in this comp. We know he wanted Mr. Hopington gone. We know that, Jonathan has been against him for a while. I could easily see him feeling like he can backdoor one of Jonathan or Hope. And that could be something that he attempts. The issue, of course, then would be he doesn't have the numbers to take them out. So in my mind, there are a few different things that could happen if Santina is safe, but they all kind of end with Renee or maybe even Shania being the ones to leave this week if Santina is safe. Also, of course, small possibility everything blows up. He finds out that there's all kinds of shenanigans going on, and maybe he flips over onto Kuzi, Daniel, and Anika, but that seems like the least likely outcome at this point.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, with 10 people, one is the HOH, two are the noms. Means 4 votes are needed to control who goes. As long as only at maximum one member of the crown is up there, the other 4 will keep that person safe. So it's a moot point. It's safe. It all comes down to, and I do think Santino's going to win this. I think a combination of both the fact that Santino had a big presence in the show this week because of the invisible HOH, also compound that with the fact that Ty and Santina had a bit of an argument yesterday on yesterday's show. I think the casual audience is probably going to vote that way. And I think a lot of people were voting that way regardless last night, and just scrolling through Twitter. So I think Santino wins this, and that'll be very fun in its own way to see the reaction from Ty. As far as switching targets there goes, I think we're safe here as far as, some of my rooting interests. I think we're fine. Because I did see some people trying to push for the keep Kuzi safe. For me, as a big Kuzi fan, I don't like that the show showed her winning a fan vote for best moment. I was like, nah, you do not need to put more eyes on her. Let's not do that. So we will see. I think the biggest question mark, Taran, and the biggest scary thing would be if initially a Crown member is on that block next to Renee and Renee wins the veto and Shania doesn't go up, then we got problems. Otherwise, it's looking to be more avenues leading to safety for them than not.
Yeah, I think that there's theoretically a world where Ty goes, okay, Santina can't go up. I need to put up a pawn. Maybe Claudia is really pushing, don't do Shania. And Ty goes to Hope and he says, hey, bro, that offer still stands. And if Hope says no, that might piss Ty off. If Hope says yes, then Hope goes on the block potentially. Then if Renee wins the veto, I could easily see Jonathan going up as the replacement to ensure that one of them leaves. Or maybe, again though, Ty is really at the whims of the people around him right now. He could easily be convinced, I think, into putting up some other kind of pawn, thinking that he has the votes, and then they flip on him if they need to. Although at that point, maybe you do just let Ty take out one of Hope or Jonathan. It's not that big of a deal if you're in. It's just okay, the crown, but they got to go eventually. So definitely some things that could happen there. I do think that there's a chance that Kuzi gets this as well. I would imagine that she is one of the more popular people on the show, probably. And she also had a good night last night, I think, with the
I am off the radar for the next 2 weeks.
So I wouldn't be surprised if she got it either. If she were to get it, I don't think it changes anything this week, but of course it does, as you said, kind of continue to plant a target on her back. And we already know that has been developing a bit already. So definitely things could shift a little bit here, but in general, the things seem to be pointed in that direction. If Santina's safe, that does throw a wrench, ironically, into Kuzi's plans. Ironically, Ty going after Santina is one of his worst plays. And after Santina goes, there's nobody left to go after but him, pretty much. Whereas now, if Santina stays, there might be more incentive to keep Ty around a little longer. So the audience might accidentally save Ty from himself a little bit here, which would be pretty funny, but we'll see.
Yeah, I took a glance at the Big Brother Canada Facebook group. Most of these are Santina. Santina voted for Santina. Someone said, I'm not voting because Jonathan isn't there, LOL. But then every other single one is voted Santina. She made big moves. She has guts. I do agree with you. I think the short list is Santina or Kuzi. I don't think anyone else is coming close to this one this week.
Yeah. All right, then. We will see what happens there. Hope says, listen, and this is back to Hope talking to Anika and Kuzi. Hope says, when you talk to Ty, just talk to him. Don't be paranoid. We're safe. I told him next week I'll protect him. And Kuzi says, but next week we're trying to get him out. And he's like, yeah. Yeah. So Hope leaves. Daniel comes back in. Kuzi starts complaining a little bit more about Ty. She says she was so annoyed at Ty saying ball game and trying to rub it in that he beat Hope in that competition. She just can't with arrogant people. Anika agrees. The way Ty talks to her makes her feel like they're just numbers to him. And Anika says, after Santina and Renee, Ty's got to go for me. He's just got to go. And Kuzi says, honestly, before even Renee, Ty should go. And Nika kind of like sighs, like, Kuzi says, listen, Renee is a lot easier to get out than Ty. Nika says, but Renee has more pull. Kuzi, no.
Where?
On who? On Renee and Claudia. What? Shania, I have, or sorry, on Shania and Claudia. Shania, I have no trust in Shania. And Kuzi says, listen, I talked to Claudia this morning and she was so mad at Renee. She does not like Renee at all anymore. And Anika says, yeah, but Ty still at least still thinks we're with him. Like Renee doesn't think she's with us. And if Renee ends up able to pull Claudia and Shania back in, then she'll have more numbers, especially with Ty gone. And Kuzi says, I don't know. I might be overconfident, but I think I'm in a better place with Claudia than Renee is. I think she's easier to get out. And Anika says, look, I'm willing to take him out. I just don't trust Shania and I'm concerned about all of that. And then Renee ends up coming in and could just completely talk blocks them for a while. Interesting argument though.
Yeah, no, it is definitely interesting, especially us knowing that there's a chance that Santina's not on this block. It's interesting to see how much Anika wants Renee out, and honestly makes the week a little bit easier if Renee stays on that block. What was interesting is when the conversation about the whole ego thing with Ty was up, Anika said something like, yeah, Hope does that too, honestly, and I don't like it. And Kuzi was like, but Hope's been like that from the beginning. That's not like he's not changing up with power. He's had that energy from the jump. And that was an interesting thing for me to hear a little bit of Anika's thoughts, because if they get whittled down, I'm curious who Anika would want out in a situation, let's say next week, if one of the crown has to go up, who would Anika push for? I think Hope could be the name there for Anika, but we'll see.
I could be wrong. I thought it was Daniel that said that about Hope, but I might be remembering it wrong.
I also might be misremembering. It is very difficult. An hour 15, but not a lot going on. It's hard to keep focus. But one of them said it.
Yeah, they did. I mean, they did all agree.
It was Daniel.
They did all agree. And like in general, they've been talking about Hope as, again, just kind of a little bit of a wild card, a little bit of a like, he kind of thinks he's running this show, but we're running this show. I think what Kuzi said was like the difference between Hope and Ty is that like when Hope does it, he's like, he doesn't do it with ill intent, basically. Whereas Ty just really just like, she just can't stand.
Fair. Yeah.
So after Renee leaves, they complain about her talk blocking them. And Daniel says, listen, as long as there's not two of us on the block together, we completely control the votes this week. There's ultimately there is 7 votes. They will have 4 out of the 5 of their alliance on the board to vote if one of them is on the block. And if none of them are on the block, they even more control the votes. And Hope says that Ty told him he'd rather work with Hope than be enemies. So he really does think that they're in a decent place right now. But yeah, in terms of that argument as well between, who would be next between Renee and Ty, this is again why I feel like Santina being saved might actually, in a weird way, benefit Ty, because I think that argument shifts pretty dramatically, at least for Kuzi, that like, yeah, I would take out Ty before Renee, but Santina, you really have to take out Santina before Ty, because taking out Ty before Santina weakens your own power base and continues to give Hope and Jonathan their power base. And so, of course, Hope and Jonathan will still be going after Ty, but and Santina herself likely will be going after Ty. But in terms of the power group that is currently kind of influencing the house, they might really shift toward, can we keep Ty at all this week, which would be interesting.
Yeah, because I do think in the the Renee versus Ty debate, there's a little bit more conversation, but that's under the assumption that Santina's probably gone this week. Now that Santina probably not gone this week, I do think that changes some things a little bit. And I do think I agree with your assessment that probably the worst nightmare scenario for Ty is if Santina wins HOH, but otherwise it's a net positive for him if Santina doesn't go. I think it helps him at least more so than, if Santina left this week. I do think.
Yeah, like in a weird way. Like if I'm Ty and I have full vision of the board, I
Mhm.
think I would rather have the Shady Bunch operating in full force to keep me around next week, even though there's one more person who could win HOH that would target me, than taking that one person out and having the Shady Bunch kind of like be against me next week. Because if the Shady Bunch is against me next week, there's almost nothing I can do. Whereas there's a lot of outs for me next week if I've got the Shady Bunch. So Santina still being in and the Shady Bunch needing to deal with her, I think is ultimately going to be a good thing for
Yeah,
Ty.
I mean, just mathematically, Santina being someone that's probably most commonly likely to end up on the block. That's one of 2 spots taken. That's one less spot for you to have to worry about. Whereas if there's 2 open seats, there's a bigger chance you might end up in one of them.
Mm-hmm. So that's mostly it. Hope is going to talk to Jonathan briefly. Again, Jonathan's arm not looking great. It's like it's pretty red, and he's got it like propped up on a pillow. He says it's hurting him. So we'll see how injured this is, but not looking too great at the moment. Hope does just kind of like thank Jonathan for his support during the competition. Like, I appreciate you so much, bro. Like, it means so much to me. And that's pretty much it.
That's all we have for you. Yeah. Oh, a little goofy bit of footage we saw was obviously they love putting dinner making in these dailies. And the absence of Dan in the kitchen has been really felt. They were talking about struggling. They're eating canned soup. It's not going well. And then I think Daniel was one of the ones that mentioned no one show this to Dan. There was a couple people that said that. I think Daniel was the last one to say it. It was very funny. Very funny. Not a lot of info there, but just so you know, the kitchen a little bit shambolic right now.
Yes, they were worried about that. Was one of the things they talked about with Dan leaving. They're like, we're gonna miss his cooking, and then of course it was part of his speech as well. So, that's where they are, and that's where we are in the week. Honestly, I wasn't sure that we were gonna get a drop today, considering that it's a bit of a holiday weekend. The exit interviews are not going to be taking place for a few more days as well. So I would not be surprised at all if we did not get anything tomorrow.
Yeah.
But of course, I will be here if we do. And hopefully, we'll have an update on what the actual plans for nominations are from Ty and if they have changed or if they will need to change because Santina may or may not be safe. So tune in for tomorrow for that if it's there. And if not, we may have to wait until Monday or even maybe Tuesday. So we'll have to stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, check out the recap we did last night of the eviction episode. Summer joined us. It was very fun. And I think that's close to it here. You can of course find me on Twitch, twitch.tv/Taran Armstrong, watching these episodes live with all of you. Pooya, what do you got going on?
Well, people can find me on Twitter at Pooyaism, on Twitch, twitch.tv/Pooya. And then over on the 90 Day Fiance RHAP podcast or the Masked Singer RHAP podcast, where Liana was with me for both this week. It was a lot of fun. We had a good time. Taran, I am seeing that there were diary rooms released, but I've not watched them.
I just saw that on the chat. I'm seeing that there's a 13-minute video with Santina, Kuzi, Ty, Renee, and Jonathan for some diary rooms. I don't know. I don't know when this came out. I didn't see it.
I don't know. I didn't see anything before we jumped on, so maybe it must have been like nowish, maybe.
But I wonder when this was, though. Does anybody know?
Like when they're from, or maybe the clothing can be an indicator. No, I don't think that's going to tell me anything. I don't know what I'm saying. I really hope, Taran, I know that the odds of us getting it for, because of the Easter weekend, the odds of us not getting the daily tomorrow is, slimmer than usual. I really hope we get it because I need the aftermath of the Santina if Santina wins it, I need that aftermath in the form of a daily. Whereas I feel like if we shove everything into a Monday episode, it might get slipped through the cracks. And I don't want that. So my fingers are definitely crossed.
Okay, they're saying the diary rooms were from Wednesday, so not going to be super helpful for anything. We'll throw them into whatever the next update is. We'll throw them into there since it's not time sensitive. I assume that if the diary room had anything that was pertinent to what the nominations might be, then we'd already know what it was.
Yeah.
They were asking about Invisible HOA. Okay, so it's probably pretty outdated, but we'll throw it in there for whenever the next update is, and we'll see what comes of that. So that's what we have for you today. We'll do our best with a roundtable based on how much we have on the drops, and that's about what we've got. I will be live soon in about an hour and a half with Asia to talk about this week's Survivor episode. So if you want to check out the Survivor Stock Watch, tune in for that. I will be live. But that's about what we have for you here. Thank you all so much for joining us, and I will see all of you next time.